Hi, and welcome to the Being Da podcast. Joe?
Hiya, and thanks for listening in again. Today we're going to be talking about infant mental health.
We have Jen and Elaine with us today. They are from We Minds Matter. Could you please introduce yourselves?
So I'm Jen McLaughlin and I'm the clinical nurse specialist in We Minds Matter Infant Mental Health GGC service.
I'm Elaine Watson, I'm a speech and language therapist and We Minds Matter as well.
Well, welcome to both of you. Thank you for coming along.
Thanks for having us.
Right, so infant mental health. I think this is one of the things we need to tidy up right away is what does it mean? Because when we talk about mental health, we almost always speak about it in the negative. You have poor mental health, maybe you're having a relationship breakdown, maybe you lost your job, you have financial difficulties, anything, trauma from your childhood. We almost always associate it with adults. What is mental health for an infant, for a baby?
Yeah, well, I guess if you were to, pick a book up or check things out online, what would that say about infant mental health? And it would probably say it's the healthy, emotional, social and cognitive development of a baby. Mm-hmm. But I think it'd be helpful just to think, what does it look like? And that, when you're actually there with a baby, how does that look? So what we would say is that it looks like a baby that's able to express their emotional needs and have those needs met and supported by the relationship that's important to them. So that could be their mum, it could be their dad, their grandparents, their any carer, their primary carer. And if that can be done and that can be done in the right way, then what you're then seeing is a baby that's got that confidence to go out and explore, and play and learn and just feel safe and understood. It creates a security for them. Meaning that they are feeling I belong in this world,
right?
And I can go out and I can develop myself, my sense of self-worth, and just build their confidence and self-esteem.
Yeah. So, how do we instill a positive mental health to children?
So actually we wouldn't really think of it as something that you could instill or give to children or to infants. We would really think of that as infant mental health developing within a relationship. So it's a two-way process for the baby, for the infant that's relating to the important grown-ups that are in their life. And even we know in the womb that babies are already responding to what's going on in their environment. They're responding to sounds that they can hear. They're responding to maybe a calm, soothing voice or music or a loud, shouting voice in different ways. So we know even in the womb that babies are starting to show that kind of responsiveness to their environment. And we even know, for example, that babies that are born hearing different languages in the womb cry with a different melody. So like French babies cry differently to German babies. Or that they respond to your voice as well when they're born. They know their parents' voices, they know their siblings' voices. So I suppose it's just understanding how much is already going on, even when they're in the womb. And
because we always try and encourage dads at our antenatal class to speak to the baby bump as such. And I know it sounds some dads look at you like, what, you want me to do what?
Yeah.
Like, just get comfy, speak to the baby, whether you're reading the baby a story or singing the baby a song. Babies will recognise your voice when they're here, and you'll recognise that they recognise you, and it is great.
I think we had a dad the other night who said, when can I start with that? And we said, well, how far along? But we knew the answer was any time. And he said, she's about 3 months pregnant. And we said, yeah, absolutely. Start singing, talking. And I think for us dads, we always feel sort of a step removed because we're not carrying the child. But yeah, singing and sometimes dads take it as an opportunity. You'll be a Manchester United fan or you'll support this team or that team. I never did that.
I did do something like that.
So I guess we know as well about infant mental health because we know that the first 1,001 days are really important to children, and we know that sort of secure relationship that they can have with at least one secure, nurturing, warm, responsive adult can really set them up for the rest of their lives. Yeah. So we've got a lot of evidence now that really tells us that will protect against later mental health or later physical health difficulties. So it can be really protective.
Is there any, what advice would you give someone who's listening and maybe they're thinking, let me take stock, let me look at my child, and maybe they think, by these definitions, maybe my child is not in a very good place mental health-wise. Would there be, what sort of things could parents start doing first of all, not to panic, obviously, but what could they start looking at to do with their kids to change that pathway for them?
Well, I guess the first thing we would always say is talk to somebody about it if you're having those kind of worries. So you've got your health visitor or your family nurse that you can talk to, and talk to your partner or talk to the people around you as well, because it might be something that you're feeling that other people aren't noticing as well. But not to be dismissed. I think it's important if you do have those worries that you kind of share those with somebody, and really to think about, well, how do we bond? Like you were talking about talking to and singing to the bump. Well, with young children, how do we bond with, you know, a newborn baby? How do we bond with an older baby? And there's loads of people around that can help, like your groups or, you know, any groups for parents and supports, really, so that people don't feel alone.
There's a lot of online supports as well. So the Parent Club have got loads of videos that can help support the relationship in play. Play doesn't come really easily to absolutely every parent, so things like that. So I suppose there's also some online resources. You can have a look at the Parent Club, and there's 5 to Thrive, which is 5 things you can do for your baby. And there's the Parent Infant Foundation with lots of resources. So maybe we could include some of them in our in the podcast.
Yeah, we will do that. That'll be in the description below for anyone who'd like to follow those through. We of course we work with dads, Joe and I. Is there any difference between mums and dads and how they provide or foster that positive mental health with their children?
So I suppose what, in our experience, or what we have found, is that each baby's relationship is unique and special. You know, whether it be with mum or dad, and because it's what you bring to that relationship. It's maybe how you also have been parented yourself. It's your own temperament. It's your own set of values and ideas, and how you can connect with that baby, and that be mum or dad. Each and every relationship is unique and important. I think you're maybe thinking that there are stereotypes, and there are, isn't there?
There are sometimes,
you know, you would hear maybe that dad's more of a risk taker or a bit more rough and tumble.
But it could be the other way around.
It could be the other way around, exactly. But no, I don't think that we would really have seen that mums can be more affectionate or tactile than a dad. And certainly what I guess we maybe would want to highlight is that, you know, we do know dads can sometimes feel a little bit marginalised or not heard, especially I suppose some of the feedback through maternity, you know, that antenatal period, when maybe direct questions to mum or questions about how mum's doing, who's asking dad how they are. But we know Glasgow are coming round to this, and they're asking more about that, and there's services like yourself. We've had dads refer to us where dad's the person that sought support and help. And it's been really helpful, hasn't it? Hopefully to let everyone know that it's not just a service for babies and mums, it's a service for the whole family.
And it might be grandparents or anybody who's involved in that important care for that baby. It's just about actually the baby having the people they need around them, and those people being supported.
Because I think sometimes we get too caught up on it must just be the parents. Now obviously parents are critical, but it is extended family, you know, even the friendship circle too. I think it's important there's that old saying, it takes a village to raise a child. And I think I'm hoping that what people have learned through the pandemic is that we do need each other. Instead of being this rampant individualism that I'll just raise, you know, I'll do it all myself. And I think for guys that tends to be a little bit of an issue. We've got to be self-made, strong on our own terms. Not always the case, but it's good to know that everyone can be part of, you know, providing that environment for the child.
And I think that's really important to know, that we're talking about what does that baby need, but actually what that baby also needs for their mental health is for their important people to feel supported. So if they're not supported, then that, you know, can impact on the baby. So very important.
I guess as well that all families look completely different. So you might have 2 dads, or you might have 2 mums, or you might have 1 dad, and you might have 1 mum, like single parenting, or co-parenting. So there could be several people involved, and I think it's really important that we don't discriminate, that we think, oh, they're only going to get that if they have this kind of parent. It's actually, like Jen said, we're all very different to each other, and we all offer different things.
You can have a family where on the surface it looks traditional, and yet the practice can be very different, positive, negative, whichever. And we would encourage anyone. The challenges are unique, I think, to each scenario. I think single parenting is quite tough, but then again, how much support do you have? There's so many different things in our work. When we work with dads, we come across many different scenarios, and that's why we tailor our response and our work to their unique needs, not just sort of a copy paste kind of thing. Yeah. Do A, do B, and then you'll be fine. It's where are you at as a family?
Yeah, absolutely.
So the next question we've got is, what are some of the myths around infant mental health?
So I guess the biggest one for us would be that infant mental health doesn't exist. So people just don't know what it is, or really question, is that a thing? Is that something? I've never heard of that before. What do you mean? How can an infant have mental health? They're just a baby. And I think, we talk a lot about the fact that it's not that long ago that babies were seen as a sort of blank slate, that they came into this world just to be kind of filled up with information rather than actually, it's, yourself, as soon as you meet a baby, they're interacting with you immediately, and
they come with a whole lot of things already in them that we might think we add, but they're already there. Yeah.
And they're so capable, and so already have all these skills in place, and they can communicate to us so much, not even just with their cries, but how they're sort of showing us how they feel, how their posture is, their skin tone, their positioning, and how they respond to us as well. So I suppose for us it would be that people sometimes don't seem to think that babies are individuals with their own mind and their own preferences and their own
they don't think it really starts until they start moving and crawling and walking and talking, don't they? They think it is a blank slate.
I think there are certain milestones we know. I think like memories, from what I was reading, a lot of times the first memories are linked to when the child becomes mobile. But of course that doesn't mean that everything before then is just zero or blank. It's just we are able to easily see the child moving, and if we think back, that kind of correlates with, at least in my experience, when my memory started. But there's just so much out there to know, and it's intriguing, fascinating, and important, I think, to know what, start looking at what children have just when, without us inputting anything.
I think as well, another myth or barrier sometimes is that term mental health. And certainly, when we're talking about infant mental health, we're not talking about babies that have mental health problems or conditions or disorders. And that, that's true of adult mental health as well. We're talking about everybody's emotional well-being, and that's sometimes a bit of a barrier. Certainly that's why we changed our name from Infant Mental Health to We Minds Matter, just so that, so our service could be accessible to people, anybody that needed the service. And you're not put off by having a conversation with somebody to then think, are they saying that my baby has a mental health problem? Because that's the scariest, really worrying thing to hear.
I think that's similar for adults too. And I think, with the conversation around mental health, especially amongst males, it's always been a bit of a taboo. It's now become a lot more, since you've had a number of key figures, sports figures, saying, oh, look, this has really negatively impacted my mental health. And I think very rapidly then people kind of went, okay, we can talk about this, and by doing this it helps remedy the situation, and it loses its stigma then, because ultimately we want mums, dads, children to have that autonomy, that power to go, actually, right, I'm feeling better, I can change things, and we don't need them, they don't want to be enslaved or indebted to anyone. It's about finding your own feet and your peace.
Yeah, because I've worked with fathers who have had poor mental health, suffered for a while, but they suffered quietly, especially when when they found out they were going to be a dad. They kept it quiet, didn't tell anybody about their fears, and it kind of got worse because they kept it to themselves. But the reason they were keeping it to themselves was because they were worried about the impact that would have on their baby. Would people say, oh, he's not medically well to take care of a baby, so he's kept it to himself, worrying about the repercussions if he came out and admitted that he was suffering from poor mental health. They might, in his mind, they might take the baby away.
And in fact, we know it's the opposite, that actually we want people to talk about their mental health and to let people know if they're worried about something, because actually then they can get the support. And just like Jen was saying, we want those, whether it's challenges or stresses that are in your life to do with mental health or to do with physical health or to do with poverty or substance misuse, we want people to be able to be open about that so that they can get the help that they need so that they can care for their baby. And that's what all the people around families want, is to offer that help, but you can't help unless somebody's able to tell you.
So Elaine, see the people you have helped, and parents, what have they said they've wished they've known sooner? What was the best things that have helped them through?
I think the big things, so one of the major things is realising how much their own childhood has impacted on who they are and what they think about themselves and what they think about their baby and their relationship, and really how all the things from the past impact on that experience right now and the present moment. And another thing, I suppose, that we kind of get people saying, oh, I didn't realise that, is just how much babies are already able to communicate and how much we can learn from just watching them and thinking about how are they responding to us, what can we see, what's the impact of how their parents are interacting with them. And I think one of the things we're really keen to let parents know is just that they don't have to be perfect. So the idea, I think people worry about that, like what do other people think of me? I can't tell them that.
Social media's got a lot to answer for that as well. I mean, don't get me wrong, that was the case for generations before social media, but I think it's definitely, especially like apps like Instagram, where they see pictures and everybody's living the perfect life and every salad's amazing, and then they're looking and it's not quite as rosy.
No, life doesn't actually look like that when you turn the camera the other way. The whole room looks the same as your room looks as well.
Also, we know that our babies don't need that either. They just need it to feel good enough and safe and secure and have a warm relationship, a warm, nurturing relationship. They just need that to be good enough. For the most amount of time, don't they?
I think social media reinforces something we already feel. Because I think, when you think, okay, I'm going to become a parent, a lot of time we hear, I want to do better than my parents did with me. So that's one thing we hear quite a bit. I think just generally we want to make sure we do a decent enough job. How do we do a decent enough job? Then on top of it, you see the images, the ideas, the stories of how well it's all going. You think, well, these people are all, really doing well. Okay, and it just adds that stress. And I think one of the key things we say to people, if you buy a car, you get a manual for it. Or you've got an old car, you can get a manual, you can watch a YouTube video, I fix it like this, I fix it like that, or whatever your hobby is. When we become parents, there's the example that's been set, the template maybe, and the template could be either missing or incomplete. And a lot of the time, I think for dads and for moms too, is you realize actually this is my life with my child, and the way we get to know and grow is by doing this together. And we all have made mistakes as parents, and my kids are 10 and 12, and I'm still going to be making mistakes in the time to come, but I'm stopping and learning and realizing and growing together with them. And I think that's one of the magical things about this. And we do reflect on who we've been or who we are. And we think, oh, yeah, I don't want that passed on to my kids. And then you might see a flicker of it in them. You're like, oh, no. But as long as we provided that environment for them to grow, and for those things that are in them just from the DNA or from whatever the process is, that comes out, that is who that person is. There'll be flickers of me, there'll be flickers of my wife in them, but that child is uniquely them. But that for me was the biggest revelation around this, because you don't want to mess your kid up. And you've got the pressure, self-imposed often, plus social media saying, oh yeah, all these people are doing wonderfully, why aren't you? But then as you do it, you realize, well, that's what's important. I'm actually getting stuck in. It's not pretty, it's not going to be perfect, it's not going to be earth-shattering, there's not going to be any books written about me doing this, but maybe the book we're writing is the child, and I think when we've seen parents get their head into that space, there's often a turnaround. There's no the academic, it's not this academic thing we're dropping down onto the child and now everything works like a computer. No.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think the book that you're writing is your relationship as well, and that goes on for the rest of your lives. So it's always changing, and you've always got those opportunities to go back and repair things. And I think for us, that would be often those moments of connection, those moments of reconnection as well, when things have gone wrong, and maybe you've missed a cue that your baby was giving you, or you've misunderstood something that your infant needed from you, but you pick up on it. And it's those moments of achievement and success for parents where they think, oh, I've got it. And I get you, and you get me, and that moment where you really connect, that's when they feel that things are going well, and nobody can capture that on Instagram. You can't
Exactly.
do that.
Yeah. And I think that for me is I felt really empowered when I realized that. And then you can ignore all this other noise that's coming in and say, you know what, that's great. If you're doing it and that works for you, fine. It could be also a facade, as we know, of social media. But for me, I'm going to do this with my kids, and actually I see that's the path we're on, and I feel better connected to them, and hopefully the other way around as well. So in terms of bonding with them, that's a real...
I suppose I was just thinking that also emphasises the need for us to be part of that village again, so that you get that bounced back to you and reflected back to you from other parents that I've done that, and that happened for me, and that was really awful, and it's so difficult, but we got through it, and that kind of feeling of community that comes from talking to other parents and being with other parents and realising that nobody is perfect, and that actually we're just all making our way, and each child is different and each parent is different, really.
So Jen, how do you access your services at Wee Minds Matter?
So like we've said before, talk to somebody about how you're feeling, and your midwife, your family nurse or your health visitor may be your first port of call.
And they would put referrals into you guys?
They put referrals into us, but if you're not, if you don't feel you can do that, you can go to your GP as well. So we would take referrals from really anybody that knows the family.
Right.
We will include the health visitor and the midwife and family nurse, just because there's a universal service there that really are there to support infant mental health as well before they come to us, and we would support them as a service to think about infant mental health needs and how they're supporting families as well.
Fantastic. We're about to wrap up. Is there anything, any final comments, any final thoughts, anything you'd like to leave with us?
Maybe just that it's Infant Mental Health Week this week, and we've been out talking to like mums and dads that some that are waiting for their baby to come and some that have just had babies. And one of the lovely things that some of them have said to us is just how connected they already feel, but also that sometimes you won't feel connected.
Yeah.
And that's okay too, and it's really important to kind of be able to talk about that and to kind of reach out if you do feel like that, really.
Great. Well, thank you very much for coming in, and it's good to see you, and look to work together in the future as well. Maybe next year we'll do another podcast for Infant Mental Health Week, but thank you both for coming in. It's been great to have you here.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
For anyone who wants further information, please look in the description for the links to some of the services we've discussed today. Joe, have I left anything out?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, great. Well, thank you very much for listening. Goodbye.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
So thanks, and you've been listening to the Being Dad podcast.